Using multiple needles could be a little bit difficult, especially when we first start out. How do we know when to pick multiple needles and how do we know how to use them? In this video, I want to take some time and I want to share my logic, my thought process, the approach that I take when it comes to selecting multiple needles for one design. Should you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment below. I'll do my best to assist in the best possible direction. If you find this video helpful, consider subscribing and ringing that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you. Right here, I have this sort of samurai-like design that has a couple of varying line weights. If we look closely, you're going to see that the heavier line weights are all around these areas, but on the inner areas, there's smaller, really fine line details, like right here in these areas, little streaks right here, and all throughout the entire design. That's going to be done with a 3-round liner. So off the bat, when I look at this design, I know that I'm either going to be using a 5 or 7-round liner for these lines, and I'm going to be using a 3-round liner for all of those small details. Now, the first thing that's going to determine the needles or needle that we're going to be using for any given design is the design itself and the style that we are doing it in. So if we're going to be doing like realism, for example, then we're probably going to be leaning more towards like a mag or a round mag of some sort. Some artists would even lean towards a 3-round liner. Let's say if we're going to be doing a traditional style tattoo, then we're probably going to be reaching more for a round shader. All of that matters when it comes to knowing how to pick needles. And what helps us, I guess 99% of the way to help pick the needles, is the style that we do and the design that we take on. I feel like this aspect is often overlooked. Let's say a client comes in, right, and they bring this design to us and they want this design. Here it is in stencil form. You can see that the line weights all have a certain line weight to them. So why would we put a heavier line weight or a thinner line weight on these areas that are close to a 5 or 7-round liner? That doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, the client is going to expect very close to what they brought in, or at the very least agreed upon. So again, that's the important part of picking the correct needles. This isn't an area that we should cut corners. If the design's reading close to a 5 or 7-round liner, that's exactly what we should be using. Does that make sense? That's how I approach it. To me, that makes the most sense. To me, there's practical reasoning behind that choice. So therefore, for me, it makes sense. I feel like everyone's going to approach this differently and definitely feel differently about this topic. However, take what you want and leave what you don't. When I take a look at these areas, I'm going to basically determine what I feel comfortable applying first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to establish the structure in this area right here, and I'm going to essentially just show you how I'm going to go about applying and mixing multiple line weights. So for this, I'm going to start with the 5-round liner and begin establishing the integrity here of the heavier line weights. After that, I'm going to go in there with the 3 to add all of the interest and all the smaller details. This area right here looks like the most crammed right here. So according to the reference, I can see what's going on. So that's why I'm going to approach that area first. So typically, if I'm not using a design to demonstrate, I would start from the bottom, work my way on up, is how I do most real tattoos. However, for this demonstration, I'm going to be starting right here to get my points across and to mix multiple line weights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply ointment to that area. I'm going to pay very close attention to the reference, and then I'm going to apply the area with the heavier line weight. This is a CNC Police 5-round liner, long taper, and then I'm going to apply it like so. So I'm going to do this right here, and then I'm going to bring this line this way, and then there we go. So as I'm going, I'm actively establishing mentally what is going to be 5-round liner and what is going to be a 3-round liner. So right here, all of this is going to go as a 5-round liner right here. This area is going to be the 5-round liner. And it's important that we think about this and do not do this at random, because all of these results are what's going to add to that interesting read when we are done. So from here, I'm going to take my time applying these entire areas using the 5. Some areas are line sculpted, where they kind of go from like a smaller line weight to a heavier. And that's cool because I'm using a 5-round liner, so sculpting is not going to be too hard at all if I need to do that. So from here, I'm going to keep establishing what I see and show you how I go about mixing the details. So now I have this area established, And then from here, there's actually the sword blade that goes right here and right here. And then we have this area over here. So I'm just going to kind of get this line going. We're going to apply these areas right here. So essentially, the idea is to establish all the boundaries with the heavier line weight. And I'm going to essentially be switching back and forth between this 5-round liner and the 3. So basically what I'm doing right now is I'm establishing the boundaries with this heavier line weight, and what I'm doing is I'm going to use these line boundaries to go about applying all of these surrounding details with the smaller line weight. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the, actually no, let's go ahead and do these right here. So now we have a lot of this done here. I could keep going. I could add the details with the 5-round liner, sure, yes. However, I want to go for interest, and I want to go for a sort of wow factor view when people look at it. So what I do is I use multiple line weights. So I switch to a Mass Pro 3-round liner from the standard 5-round liner, and by doing so, it allows me to add varying line weights which read nicely if executed correctly. So here's my first 3-round liner line, and I'm also able to put a whole bunch of little details in here that really amplify this design right here. So you can see all of these surrounding details we're adding with this smaller line weight. We're using a lot of whip out motions here, so like so, you can see. And then over here you can see that we added the circles and everything with the 5-round liner, and then now we're adding little tallies and dashes and whip out lines with a 3, and it creates a very, very interesting read. That's much better than just a standard 5 all the way through. Sure, using a 5-round liner is easier and we don't have to switch needles. However, in my opinion, switching to a 3-round liner for details like this and combining multiple needles is definitely way cooler. And that's just artistic preference. Some people may like the standard line weight all the way throughout and hate the little details. To each their own. I want to stay accurate to the stencil at hand here, and by using multiple line weights it allows me to stay accurate to the integrity of the design. And then I'm going to do the details here. So I added little details there with a 3-round liner, and you can see that already there is a massive difference in the read. To me, the quality just kind of goes up when we start combining multiple line weights. And again, that's going to be my opinion, but I do feel like with varying line weights and done, in a tasteful way, we get really clean results and that read really nicely. In correspondence to the reference, there's like these little details right here as well that are like little triangles, and since I'm using multiple line weights, I can actually go and add them in with using the dot work technique. So, there we go. And then the same thing up here. And I guess I could have done this with a 5-round liner, yes, but the results with a 3-round liner is completely different. It's just more tighter and finer, which is exactly what we want, or what I'm looking for. And there we go. You can kind of see that combining multiple line weights with multiple techniques produces awesome results. Here's a top view of these results, and you can see that taking the time to really think it through, to add multiple techniques and line weights really does yield better results, or at the very least in my opinion. Let me know what you think about varying line weights within designs. Let me know if you like to just use one needle all the way through, or let me know if you like the read when multiple line weights are used. That'll be it for this one. I do hope that you can take something with you and immediately apply it to your workflow on your end. If you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment below. I'll do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel, as I would greatly appreciate your support. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you, your time, and your support. I hope you have a great day.